Today, we are uncovering a 100-year-old mystery, the mystery of how gigantic rocks can move by themselves. And the real catch here? People never see them move. Now, that probably sounds crazy, but I assure you the answers lie in science. If a rock moves around the desert, and nobody is around to see it, does it make a sound? No, you know what, that doesn't work, hang on. Picture this. You're wandering through the desolate expanse of Death Valley National Park, specifically the Racetrack Playa area, which is a dry lake bed so flat and barren it kinda looks like the surface of Mars. Suddenly, you stumble upon a rock, but not just any rock. This one has a long, winding trail carved into the cracked earth behind it, as if it decided to get up and go for a stroll. You ask around and discover that nobody moved the rock and that it somehow moved all on its own. For decades, these moving rocks were one of nature's greatest unanswered questions. And some of these stones are massive. I mean, we are talking 700 pounds of solid rock moving across the desert with nobody knowing how it happened. Some rocks have even moved as much as 1,500 feet by themselves, and for reference, that's as if they did a lap around a 400-meter or quarter-mile track. It's no wonder they named this place Racetrack Playa. These are known as the Sailing Rocks. They were first observed in 1915 and would go on to be the mystery of the century. Historically, this has been just about as confusing for people as you would think. Explorers in the early 1900s noticed these trails and were immediately baffled. The theories that followed to explain this were, let's say, colorful. People blamed everything from magnetic forces to mischievous aliens. Some people even thought pranksters were dragging these rocks around for laughs. But the thing is, like I said, these stones were heavy, so heavy that even the Hulk would probably think twice before he moved them. Researchers began formally exploring the question in the 1940s, but for decades still, nobody had any idea how this was happening, and despite countless hours of research going into it, nobody had ever even seen the rocks move in real time. Fast forward to 2014, when researchers from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego finally observed the rocks in motion for the very first time. They set up a high-resolution weather station and equipped rocks with motion-activated GPS units, using non-native rocks brought in with the permission of the National Park Service. And then the researchers waited, and they expected this to be a long experiment. But luck was on their side because they didn't have to wait long at all. Within a relatively short period of time, the researchers uncovered the secrets of how these rocks move on their own. In December 2013, after rare winter rains had filled the playa with a shallow pond about 3 inches deep, temperatures dropped overnight, forming a thin sheet of ice across the surface. Then, as the ice began to melt and crack in the morning sun, light winds pushed the ice sheets, which in turn nudged the rocks across the wet, slick mud. The researchers documented rocks moving at a few inches per second by winds that were only around 10 miles an hour. The ice sheets, less than 5 millimeters thick, acted like sails, gently propelling the rocks along their paths. Some rocks moved over 200 feet that day, and in some instances, multiple rocks moved simultaneously across the playa, leaving synchronized trails behind. In other words, what was first thought to require hurricane-force winds or supernatural forces turned out to actually just be a delicate interplay of water, ice, mud, and wind. Nature's engineering is as elegant as it is surprising. Now, if you're thinking, does this mean I can go out and see the rocks move for myself? Sadly, the answer is probably no. Even with modern time-lapse cameras, scientists have only observed the rocks in motion a handful of times. It's a fleeting moment in a place that's hard to access. But what you can see are the trails, perfectly preserved on the playa, like signatures left by these wandering stones. And that brings us to the real beauty of Racetrack Playa, because it's not just about the mystery of the desert. It is about the wonder of a place where something even as simple as wind and ice can create a story that leaves us all in awe. Death Valley may be one of the harshest environments on Earth, but it is also one of the most intriguing. So next time you hear about Death Valley and its mysterious moving rocks, you can tell that person that it is not magic but science, really cool, really weird, and fascinating science. In other news, is this a tree or not? The answer might surprise you, and if you would like to know what the heck I'm talking about, as well as learn the story of how the petrified forest came to be, go ahead and click on the video right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.